The battle for Deuce Knight is not over. The flip from Notre Dame to Auburn, it hasn't happened yet, and there's a major development to report today. In this video, we got Mike Singer, Notre Dame insider. He's on to talk about what the Irish are doing right now to keep Deuce Knight on that commit list. Remember, the experts, they've been saying for about a month now that they were confident in a flip, but not so fast. We're going to break it all down. But first, Notre Dame fans, do me a favor right now. Hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel, the best recruiting channel on all of YouTube. All right, let's bring in Mike Singer from blueandgold.com. Mike, let's talk about the major development reported today by our own Steve Wiltfong.
Yeah, this has been such a whirlwind of a day in my line of work. Josh, you just don't know when you're going to wake up, and it's a whole Deuce Knight morning. Now it's just all Deuce Knight, so you get...
And not him flipping either. Like, we're not here to talk about a flip.
We are not. It's more optimistic on the Notre Dame side of things, which I didn't really expect. As you talked about in the lead-in here, there's been so much discussion about an Auburn flip, but then you get Steve Wiltfong reporting that, hey, it's very much possible that he's going to visit for that Louisville game at the end of September, which we'd been hearing more, but now it's more of a possibility, even looks like. But then you get Jeffrey Lee from Auburn Live saying, hey, he might actually officially visit Auburn that same weekend when the Tigers toast Oklahoma. And then, I know Mr. Lee has been a little back and forth on whether he thinks that's actually going to take place. Mm-hmm. So we could spend an hour on this, Josh, but it really comes down to this, in my opinion. Is he going to visit Notre Dame on the September 28th weekend, or is he going to visit Auburn?
All right, well, let's bring in Jeffrey Lee from Auburn. No, I'm just joking. We'll get Jeffrey. I'll get Jeffrey on another video separate. But yeah, I mean, we're going to, so I guess what this leads me to ask you is the whole time that Deuce was flirting with Auburn, he made the first 2 weekend visits there. Was Notre Dame just sitting back and letting Deuce Knight do his thing, or was Notre Dame active with him still and trying to still communicate and keep him on that commit list?
Yeah, Notre Dame definitely kind of covered all of its bases. It's my understanding when the news first dropped that he was at Auburn at the end of July, that they were communicating with him, hey, what's going on? Hey, what's going on? And then it continues on, more rumors about him flipping, and they had those conversations like, are we still good? And then I think at some point Notre Dame was like, I mean, he tells us he's good. We're just going to keep recruiting him and talking to him like normal. And I think that's continued on. I was told that just this past Friday, he had a conversation with Notre Dame and his potential future roommate at Notre Dame. And, I know he had a big conversation with Marcus Freeman last week. So on the Irish side of things, they know the buzz is out there about Auburn. Obviously, he was just there back-to-back weekends, but they're continuing to recruit him as if it's just a dogfight.
It's really been an interesting battle here because, you got Deuce Knight, who's been solidly committed, but then he sneaks away to make some Auburn visits, and now going to be back at Notre Dame. That visit would be, September 28th, I believe, is the Saturday. So did you say, is that official or unofficial?
This would be his unofficial. He took his official in June. He was basically in South Bend all of June, but Auburn side of things thinks he might take an official there that same weekend, so we'll be on a flight watch, I guess, that day.
Yeah. Well, we got a couple weeks to figure out exactly what's going to happen. Do you think there was a lot of talk heading into the weekend? Auburn experts, Jeffrey Lee, one of them, thought that there was a good chance that Deuce Knight might commit. Obviously, Auburn shocked at home by Cal. They lose. I mean, we've been covering recruiting for a long time. We know the atmosphere in a locker room when you win is conducive to like commitments and things like that. Do you think, or have you heard anything about the fact that Auburn lost? Do you think that maybe got a foot back in the door for Notre Dame?
Well, I mean, Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois that same day.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, I guess, is do you think if that Auburn locker room was jumping after a big win, do you think Deuce Knight might have pulled the trigger and finally flipped?
I honestly don't think so, because going into it, you continue to hear behind the scenes from the Knight side of things and on the Notre Dame side of things that this is much more of a conflicted prospect than the Auburn side might want you to believe, that there was so much optimism coming from the Auburn side of things. But then, from what I'm being told, it was much more of like a 50-50 proposition. And then for me, I'm like, I don't know what to believe. You just get such conflicting things. So, yeah, I mean, you have both teams losing bad against bad, but in bad fashion. But I'll add this real quick, Josh. There was more talk about him flipping before the game
Yeah.
than after it.
I think
So,
time is a good thing for Notre Dame. I mean, it has been since the beginning. You know, he made it there for Big Cat Weekend at the end of July, didn't flip, gave it more time. I feel like the more time he keeps giving it, maybe it's a better situation for Notre Dame.
very possibly, but also if you're Notre Dame, you don't want to be left at the altar and scrambling for a last-minute quarterback.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it gets
Yeah,
tricky.
it's one thing when it's like a Peyton Bowen flip in or an Edwards flip at the end of Colorado, but it's another when it's your quarterback and it's kind of, and you're only taking one. So yeah, I get what you're saying. All right, well, any other big visits Notre Dame fans should be aware of besides the Deuce Knight one?
Yeah, Madden Framo. I mean, Notre Dame doesn't have too many prospects left
Right,
in this
they're closing out
2025
this class for sure.
Very much closing out the class, but big receiver official visits potentially around the corner. We've been reporting about that at Blue and Gold. I know Steve Wiltfong has as well. Madden Framo, it's likely he's going to come in for the Louisville game. It's a huge linebacker target for the Irish. Then Nathaniel Owusu-Boateng, we're expecting him to be on campus for the Florida State game November 9th.
All right, Notre Dame fans, talk to us. How are we feeling about Deuce Knight after this major development? It sounds like he might be back on campus this month. Let us know, comment section below.